The movie begins with someone who is taking care of the corpse of a man with a mustache. The person then mutilated the man's body and buried it in the forest. The scene then switches to a man named Jack, standing on the side of the road in France. Jack tried to find a ride, but none of the cars stopped and allowed him to ride in theirs. Unbeknownst to Jack, a sign on the road said not to give rides to anyone around the road. Jack could only grimace when the drivers of passing cars did not stop and help him. Some of them even mocked him. A pickup truck passed shortly after. Jack looked horrified because in the back of the truck there were several animal bodies covered in blood. A few steps ahead, he also found a pile of dog bodies lying on the side of the road in a pathetic condition. Still filled with irritation and almost desperation, Jack decided to continue down the road until he reached the edge of the forest. A blue car was speeding from the opposite direction. The driver seemed to have difficulty controlling the steering wheel because the car drove unsteadily until it finally stopped near a tree. Without thinking, Jack went straight to the car, hoping to get a ride. But it looks like luck hasn't been on his side. The car driver was arguing with his girlfriend while in the car. Instead, the man left his girlfriend with Jack. Jack just scowled at the blue car that was moving further and further away from where he was. But at least now, he's not stranded alone. He was accompanied by a beautiful blonde woman who introduced herself as Veronica. As a French, Veronica was quite fluent in English. Jack also had no trouble communicating with her because Jack was not fluent in French at all. The two of them walked together until they arrived at a meadow area and chose to rest for a while there. Jack tells Veronica that he is from England and is on vacation in France. But when he was about to return to England, he was robbed on the street. All of his belongings were stolen, including his car and cell phone. Only his passport and the clothes he was wearing were left. Veronica feels sorry for Jack, but her story was no luckier than Jack. She said that she intended to migrate to another country because she lived alone. Her parents had died of chronic illnesses, and she had no one else in the world. Veronica's story touched Jack, and they continued their conversation until nightfall. The two of them agreed to spend the night in a forest area not far from the highway. Jack lit a bonfire, and Veronica told him that she was learning to sign autographs. She then showed Jack some of her signatures. The next morning, Jack wakes up and panics because Veronica isn't by his side. He searched for her until he came to a lake and saw her swimming there. He then joins Veronica. After swimming together, they resumed their journey along on the lonely road at the edge of the forest. A yellow car drove past as they came to a corner. Jack was still optimistic as he gave a thumbs up, asking for a ride. Unexpectedly, the car stopped. A middle-aged French man allowed Jack and Veronica to hitch a ride in his car. At first, Veronica refused. Her expression even turned cold and wary when she saw the man who introduced himself as Grizzard. She was suspicious of Grizzard, but Jack persuaded Veronica, and the two got into the car. With broken English, Grizzard said that he was a native of this area. And after learning that Jack is English, Grizzard invites them to stay at his house and meets his wife, who is very fluent in English. Jack could not refuse his offer, and Veronica could only comply. Jack and Veronica arrive at Grizzard's house, which has a large yard. Grizzard's house is a 3-story building that looks like a manor house of the nobles of Great Britain. Jack looked impressed by the mansion, but Veronica looked normal. Mary, Grizzard's wife, greeted her guests at the front door. Mary escorted Jack to one of the rooms so the man could rest, while Grizzard escorted Veronica. Jack then plopped down on the soft bed after Mary had left him to rest. This was the first time that he had been able to rest comfortably after bad luck had befallen him. Jack closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep, allowing his body and mind to rest even if not for long. Jack woke up when it was dark. Earlier, he was too tired and went straight to bed, so he didn't have time to observe the room where he rested. The room wasn't that big, not so much furniture either. Jack finds a box that says Grizzard on top of the drawer. Overwhelmed with curiosity, he opens the box and finds old photos of Grizzard and Mary. Not only that, he also found several photos of a girl and a boy. He assumed that the two children were Grizzard and Mary's children. Grizzard and Mary invite Jack and Veronica to have dinner together. The atmosphere in the dining room looked like a family dinner banquet. Grizzard and Mary were very friendly to their guests, though Veronica still looked dispirited and suspicious of the couple. Jack quietly observed the situation in the dining room, but he didn't see anyone else in the house as he had thought that Grizzard had children. After dinner, Jack walked over to Veronica, who was smoking on the back porch. Veronica tells Jack that she had a younger brother when she was little, but her brother died from being run over by a tractor while playing hide and seek in a field. Jack seemed to sympathize with Veronica's sad story and tried to cheer her up. Veronica decided to go to bed after finishing her cigarette, while Jack chose to join Grizzard, who was watching television in the living room. Jack tells Grizzard that he must return to England to inform his family. He also told Veronica's plan to go to another country. As they chatted, Jack asked innocently about the possibility of Grizzard having children. Surprisingly, Grizzard denied it and said that he and Mary had no children. Jack decided to sleep because he was planning to go tomorrow. The house was deserted when he woke up the following day. He becomes even more suspicious when he doesn't find Veronica anywhere either. He scanned every corner of the house with all the bad possibilities running through his mind. Grizzard suddenly appeared just as Jack was about to open a door. Grizzard realized that Jack was suspicious of him for holding a hammer. He then told him that he was fixing the cupboard. Grizzard also said that Veronica had left early in the morning. She didn't like waking Jack to say goodbye, and instead, she wrote a letter announcing her departure. Jack looked down sadly because Veronica left him without saying goodbye. He then left Grizzard's house while rereading Veronica's letter carefully, but he realized an oddity. Veronica's signature looks different. Luckily, he still kept the paper containing Veronica's signature collection in his notebook. He immediately compared the shape of the signature on the paper and on the paper Grizzard had given him. Sure enough, Veronica's signatures on the two papers looked different. Jack realized that Grizzard had lied, and Veronica might still be at his house. Unfortunately, when he realized the oddity, someone hit his head, and he was unconscious. Jack awoke with his mouth gagged and his body tied up in the back of a speeding truck. He realized that the truck with the pickup was the same one he had seen transporting animal bodies yesterday. The owner of the truck was an old man named Delacroix, who was taking him to his house. Jack believes that Delacroix may be a butcher because there are so many animal bodies in his house. Delacroix babbled in French that Jack didn't understand. Despite still tying Jack's hands and feet, he remained friendly and bribed him, but Jack flatly refused. Delacroix bluffed to get Jack to obey, and it worked. Jack no longer rebelled, and in return, Delacroix untied his hands so he could eat freely. Delacroix photographed Jack with a Polaroid camera. The man grinned as if he had just caught a prey. He tied Jack's hands again after the man had finished his meal. After that, he loaded Jack's body into his truck and covered his mouth with duct tape. Jack almost gave up and thought his life would end like the animals in the hands of Delacroix, the butcher. But it seems that death will not come for Jack because suddenly, white smoke appears inside Delacroix's house. The man rushed back into his house and turned off the stove. Luckily, his little carelessness didn't cause a fire. Jack saw an opportunity to escape. Jack grabbed a sharp nail and tried to untie the duct tape in his hand. He then fled before Delacroix returned to the car. Jack escapes by following the path in the forest until he arrives back at Grizzard's house. He crept on the fence, waiting for the right moment to go inside looking for Veronica. Shortly after, Grizzard and his wife got out of the house and drove off in a car. He took the opportunity to enter the house. Jack wandered through room after room in Grizzard's mansion, looking for Veronica's whereabouts. Jack finds Veronica being held captive by the husband and wife in an attic. He immediately freed Veronica, and the two rushed towards the exit. Unfortunately, Grizzard and Mary had returned home. They then couldn't help but steal Grizzard's rifle as a protection. Grizzard and Mary, who realized that Veronica had run away with Jack, immediately chased them using a car. Jack and Veronica ran into a wheat field. Grizzard and Mary got out of the car, telling Jack that they didn't mean to hurt them, but Veronica doesn't believe it and takes Jack off across the fields. They arrived at a barn and decided to hide there until it was safe. Unfortunately, the barn turned out to be Delacroix's. The old man looked confused to see Jack and Veronica covered in blood. Jack pointed the gun at Delacroix and threatened him. Delacroix had no other choice. He complied with Jack and left with a slow retreat. But Delacroix couldn't see the situation behind him because he was walking backward. Suddenly he slipped and fell. Unlucky, his body was stuck on a sharp iron rod. Veronica then took action by covering Delacroix with a tarp, took a large knife, and stabbed him in the chest, confirming that the old man was really dead. A minute later, Grizzard and Mary arrived at Delacroix's granary and argued with Veronica in French. Grizzard then tried to calm Veronica down and called her daughter. The form of a beautiful girl with blonde hair that looked precisely like Veronica flashed before Grizzard. A surprising fact was revealed. Veronica is Grizzard and Mary's daughter, and what's even more astonishing is, Veronica turns out to be a serial killer psychopath. She can kill anyone without feeling guilty, just like when she killed Delacroix and her brother. Veronica's younger brother didn't die from being run over by a tractor but from being killed and mutilated by his sister. Grizzard and Mary were about to take Veronica away when Jack suddenly appeared brandishing a gun in front of their car. Grizzard and Mary tried to be cooperative, getting out of the car with both hands raised. Veronica immediately left the car and joined Jack. Grizzard and Mary tried to explain to Jack and reveal the truth about Veronica, but Veronica immediately knocked her out unconsciously. Veronica also covered Grizzard's mouth and hands until the man was helpless and could only surrender until Jack and Veronica left in their car. Grizzard and Mary tried to prevent Veronica during this time, who always tried to run away from their house. They deliberately put up a road sign that said not to give anyone a ride on the road around their house so that Veronica could not escape. They hired a butcher Delacroix to rescue Jack and take the man to a nearby port. But alas, all their plans failed. Now, Veronica manages to escape in a car, and Jack goes with her. Jack and Veronica seemed happy to escape from Grizzard and Mary, but what Jack doesn't know is that he may never arrive in England alive. Veronica smiled because she had managed to find an easy prey to fulfill her murderous desire. She glanced down, making sure that her favorite big knife was there and ready for her next victim. This film ends.